Hey friends, welcome back to Oversea Ghost. I'm Blackmond. Tonight's story comes from Northeast Thailand, where a simple work trip turned into a nightmare. 4 colleagues, a cursed house, and a warning from a monk that not everyone would return home. If you love these tales, hit like, share, and subscribe. Let's begin. My name is Sarah, and I am 32 years old. I work as a sales representative for a cosmetics brand, a job that keeps me constantly on the move, dragging my suitcase through provincial back roads and checking into rooms that range from surprisingly comfortable to places where you can't quite put your finger on what's wrong. But there is one journey, one accommodation that I remember with crystalline clarity. It was an assignment that nearly prevented me from ever coming home. The company sent 4 of us to promote our products in a province in Northeast Thailand. The manager, a pair of twin brothers all called Daniel and David, and myself. We planned to stay 3 days and 2 nights. Unfortunately, our arrival coincided with a local festival, and every hotel within reasonable distance was fully booked. After hours of searching, we finally located a 2-story house on the outskirts of town. The ground floor was concrete, the upper level wooden. Simple, but clean. Presentable, even. We took it. That decision remains the worst I have ever made. Before departure, following our custom, we visited a temple in Thonburi to pay respect to the Buddha and make merit, Tambun, praying for a safe journey. It was an unremarkable temple. We brought fresh flowers and offerings for the monks. But that day, one monk studied our group with an expression I still cannot forget. On this trip, he said, not everyone will be able to return safely. It depends on each person's fortune and merit. We turned to look at him. The manager asked if something was going to happen. The monk looked directly at the manager, said nothing, then lifted a bowl of holy water, na mun, and sprinkled it over us. I am a monk, he said finally. I will not deceive you. Everything depends on your own merit and karma. Why would a monk say such a thing? We were full of questions, though we tried not to show it. David, the older twin, even joked, could it be that someone married a local wife and decided to stay there, maybe not coming back to work? Everyone laughed, and the heaviness lifted. That night, after returning home to pack, I lay in bed drifting towards sleep when I felt myself suspended in that liminal space between waking and dreaming. Then I saw my grandmother who had passed away years before. In the dream, she seized my hand with desperate strength, telling me not to go, begging me not to get into the vehicle. When she released me, I startled awake. My wrist ached. I could not determine whether it had been a dream or merely exhaustion playing tricks on my mind. The next morning, as I prepared to leave, I noticed a framed photograph on my bookshelf, a group picture of me and my colleagues lying on the floor. Its glass shattered. A chill passed through me, subtle but unmistakable. The schedule was set, however. The vehicle was waiting. I loaded my luggage and climbed in. As we pulled away, I looked back at my house and saw my grandmother standing at the front gate. This was not a trick of light. I was fully awake, and I was terrified. Dizziness washed over me. Something was profoundly wrong with this trip. I knew it with certainty. Yet I told myself to calm down, to finish the work, to get home. The sky darkened as we approached our destination. My colleagues slept while I scrolled through my phone to pass the time. Suddenly, the vehicle slowed to a stop. A traffic accident ahead had created a jam that held us for what felt like an eternity. When we finally crept past, I saw the wreckage. A motorcycle crushed, its rider run over by the vehicle behind. Half his head destroyed. The scene was horrifying, but stranger still, I saw a man standing beneath a tree at the accident site, wearing clothes identical to the dead motorcyclist. I could not believe what I was seeing. I squeezed my eyes shut and pretended I had seen nothing. We finally entered the town and stopped to buy supplies. A colleague noticed my pale face and asked if I was unwell. I claimed a headache. Then, from the corner of my eye, I noticed that David, standing beside me, had no head. Terror liquefied my legs. I collapsed to the ground. They helped me up, concerned, but I could not explain what I had witnessed. It was too absurd, too impossible. I retreated to the vehicle to rest, trying to steady myself. When the others returned, I told them everything. The driver, a man I'll call Michael, admitted that since entering town, he too had felt something wrong. I suggested to the manager that we return home and reschedule after the festival. The manager refused. "We've already come this far," he said. "Maybe you're just tired from sitting in the vehicle all day. Let's rest well tonight and talk about it tomorrow." I had no choice but to continue. We followed the map into a remote alley, the road pitch black, no other houses visible. Finally, we reached the entrance to the lane where our accommodation should have been. Yet no matter how we searched, we could not find the house. It was late and anxiety mounted. We circled until we spotted a light in a distant dwelling and stopped to ask directions. David approached the villager inside. The moment she heard which house we sought, her expression transformed into something I could only describe as disbelief mixed with pity. "Are you really going to stay there?" "This is a three-way intersection," she said slowly. "The house you're looking for is in the alley to the right." We followed her directions. When we arrived, we were stunned. We had passed this exact spot moments before. How had we not seen it? I was trembling, near tears. I told the manager I could not stay there. Again, he insisted. The house looked abandoned, untouched by human presence for years. We unloaded our belongings. The wooden floorboards groaned beneath our feet with every step, a sound that crawled up my spine. The house contained 3 bedrooms upstairs, 1 bathroom, 1 kitchen, and a small living room downstairs. However, 1 bedroom was locked, supposedly a storage room for miscellaneous items. We divided the rooms. I took the bedroom adjacent to the locked storage room. Across the hall, the twins shared their room. The manager chose to sleep alone in the living room downstairs, a decision that, in retrospect, showed more consideration than I initially recognized. I wanted only to shower and sleep. We had to rise early for work. I had barely settled into bed when I heard footsteps in the room, the sound of something being dragged across the floor. Then pressure crushed my chest, unbearable, as if someone were standing on me. Paralysis locked my body. I forced my eyes open. A woman in a black skirt squatted on my chest, her weight suffocating. Tears streamed down my face. Silently, desperately, I recited Buddhist mantras begging her to leave. She remained. Then suddenly, she floated upward and, as if pulled by invisible force, rushed violently downward through the floor and vanished. Only then could I move my limbs. I swear on everything I hold sacred, this was not a dream. I ran downstairs to tell the manager I had encountered a ghost. At the stairwell landing, a figure materialized. I screamed and stumbled backward. It was the manager. He had been startled awake by my cry. He pushed me back upstairs, his voice tight with fear. While I was sleeping, I felt cold breath on my face. I opened my eyes and saw someone hanging from the ceiling looking down at me. We'd better not go down. The twins, roused by the commotion, found us trembling in the hallway. We crowded into their room and told them everything. But Daniel and David dismissed our experiences as nightmares, claiming they had slept peacefully. The manager and I spent the remaining hours in their room, lights blazing, too terrified to sleep. At dawn, we gathered in the living room. The manager pointed to the ceiling where the apparition had hung, directly above the locked room. David then admitted, "Actually, we heard noises from inside there last night, but we assumed they were rats." Just then, Michael arrived to drive us to work. The manager urged us not to dwell on it. We prepared to leave when we saw the villager who had given us directions standing by the roadside. The manager waved politely. She approached and asked, "Did you encounter anything strange last night? I really don't understand why you chose this house." When the manager described our experiences, her face drained of color. Before I could ask what she knew about the house, whether it was haunted, she fled without another word. Why had she sought us out so early? What had she intended to tell us? During the drive, the manager related the night's events to Michael, who offered to take us to see a monk he knew after work. We agreed immediately. That evening, we arrived at a temple. The manager recounted our experience to the monk, whose expression grew increasingly grave. Finally, he fixed his eyes on me. "Do you know?" he said. "There is one following you. It's a man." I was stunned. A man? But I had seen a woman in black. The manager asked if there was a solution. The monk sprinkled holy water on our vehicle and gave each of us a sacred thread, Sai-Sin. "The one you should fear is not this man," he warned. "The one you truly should fear is the one at the accommodation. You must be careful. What is meant to happen will still happen. I cannot help you." He provided an address nearby, saying a master, Ajahn, there might yet be able to assist us. We followed the directions to an old house, the master's residence. As the manager raised his hand to knock, the gate opened of its own accord. He foresaw our coming, I thought. His spiritual power must be extraordinary. Then an elderly woman in white emerged to welcome us. The monk had telephoned to announce our arrival. So much for supernatural prediction. She led us to a room where, in dim candlelight, I saw a table bearing a large talisman, Prayan. An old gentleman with an unsettling presence entered from another room, frightening to behold. This master appeared to be around 80 years old. He sat slowly, and his first words to us were, "Do you know what you were playing with? Why did you go and provoke it? Do you want to see it?" We were terrified into silence. The manager hurried to explain that we were merely on business, that we had not intended to offend or disturb anything, that we would return to Bangkok immediately once our work concluded. The master frowned. "It wants to take you all away," he said. "I can only say I will do my best to help you, but what the outcome will be depends on your own merit." He asked if we had moved anything in the house or performed any unusual actions. He asked if we had moved anything in the house or performed any unusual actions. It was then that David spoke. "Last night, before sleeping, we heard strange noises from that locked room several times. We thought they were rats. The noise kept bothering us, so we knocked on the door to scare them away. Then the noise stopped. We didn't think more about it. Understanding crashed over us. Something inhabited that room. Our knock had enraged it." The master nodded and began a ritual, Thum Fati. The woman in white brought a bowl of holy water. The master added what appeared to be animal skin and spell papers, takrut, to the bowl, then began chanting. Suddenly, violent wind erupted. Doors and windows banged. Dogs throughout the neighborhood howled incessantly. Hung mai. A stench like rotting corpses filled the air. When the ritual ended, the wind died, the howling ceased, but the master declared the matter unfinished. He instructed us to return to the haunted house and attend to the entity. The manager, desperate, asked what exactly we needed to do, when it would end, whether we could simply return to Bangkok now. The master was firm. "If you leave now, you will be deceiving it. It will not let you off. No matter what, you won't be able to escape." We were near breaking point. Finally, the master gave the manager a rope, instructing him to encircle the entire house with it. If we survived the night, we could leave the following day. Before departing, I asked about the male spirit the monk had mentioned. "Is it the motorcycle driver?" The master nodded. "There is a man right beside you. He means no harm. He probably doesn't know he's dead yet, doesn't know where to go, so he's following you." When I asked what to do, he surprised me. "Just let him follow. One day he will leave on his own. The most important thing now is to deal with the problem at the accommodation." Upon returning to the house, the manager and twins immediately wrapped the rope around the perimeter. As David exited the vehicle, he whispered that he had seen a dark shadow in the trees, watching us. My skin erupted in gooseflesh. When we opened the door, a wave of rotting flesh stench struck us. The interior was destroyed, belongings scattered everywhere. We approached the locked room's door, apologized to the empty air, explained we had returned and hadn't meant to deceive anyone. We cleaned the debris. Then, following instructions, the twins and I retired to our respective rooms, while the manager asked Michael to remain with him in the living room through the night. Exhaustion overwhelmed me. I called my mother and told her everything. She was shocked. She revealed that she had been feeling unwell for days and had dreamed of my grandmother the previous night. In the dream, grandmother warned that I might be in danger, that the people in the house might be in danger. While I spoke with her, my window opened by itself. Cold wind poured in. Immediately, I heard the sound of glass or a vase falling from the locked room next door. Terrified, I rushed to close the window, then fled downstairs. The manager asked what was wrong. I described the sound. He frowned. "You only heard a sound. When I was showering, I clearly felt someone watching me, felt someone walking around." We talked for a while before I realized I had left my phone upstairs. Michael kindly volunteered to accompany me to retrieve it. As we climbed the stairs, we heard murmuring, someone chanting continuously. I grabbed the phone and turned to leave, but glancing back, I saw a woman standing in the corner of the stairs, slowly advancing toward us. We ran downstairs, huddled in the living room, waiting for dawn in silence. It was past midnight. No one dared speak. That moment remains the most terrifying of my life. I never imagined a simple business trip would lead to this. Then the murmuring returned, louder. Doors and windows opened slowly. We saw a dark shadow pacing the living room. I remembered the twins had been in their rooms since our return. We had forgotten them in our fear. I called their names, urging them to come down. No response. Sensing catastrophe, we rushed upstairs. The manager knocked on their door. No answer. Then I noticed the lock on the previously sealed room lying on the floor. I touched Michael's arm. Braver than I, he opened the door. I shone my phone's flashlight inside. 2 spirit altars, Tofra, dominated the space. The room had been used for rituals. Spells were drawn on the floor. A skull sat among various statues. Mold and decay permeated the air. As the manager told Michael to close the door, I saw Daniel sitting in the corner, holding something, cutting his own wrist. We seized his arm, but blood already flowed freely. He had used a shard of vase. As we panicked, we heard a window open. I turned to see David sitting on the windowsill. He smiled at us. Then he jumped. Everything happened too quickly. We had no time to react. Fearing we would lose both brothers, the manager ordered Michael to start the vehicle, to rush them to the hospital immediately. We carried Daniel downstairs, then searched for David. When I found him, I broke down completely. He lay motionless on the rocks outside. I knew he might not survive, but we loaded him into the vehicle and sped toward the city hospital. All the way, I heard a sound like fingernails scraping glass, a noise that unraveled what remained of my composure. Grief and terror filled the vehicle. At the hospital, we waited before the emergency room. I sat numb, praying desperately. Finally, the doctor emerged. Both brothers, he said regretfully, could not be saved. I collapsed, weeping, unable to comprehend that this could happen to us. The manager notified their family. Early the next morning, we returned to the house with police. On the second floor, in that terrible room, the officers were stunned. Beyond the spirit altars, they found ritual implements, spell markings on the floor, a skull, various statues. They photographed and collected evidence. We stood trembling at the doorway, unable to look further. That night, the twins' remains were transported back to Bangkok for merit-making ceremonies. The manager and I rode in separate vehicles with the bodies, he with Daniel, I with David. Michael drove back alone. The past 2 days had been too much. I fell asleep in the vehicle and dreamed of the house again. I stood alone before it and saw the twins stretching their hands from the window as if begging for help. I woke with a start, deeply disturbed. Upon reaching Bangkok, the manager rushed to me with terrible news. Michael is in trouble. He had an accident driving back and is in the ICU. I wept uncontrollably. What have we gotten into? Is this not over? Will someone else die? At home, I embraced my mother and cried, then told her everything, including the monk's words about the male spirit following me. She was terrified. After the twins' funeral, she said she would take me to our hometown to see a forest monk. That night, I slept alone in my second-floor room. As I prepared to close the window, I saw a dark shadow pacing outside the house. At the moment I reached to shut it, I felt that thing turn and look at me. I yanked the curtains closed and hid in bed, but exhaustion claimed me. I dreamed again of the house, the twins reaching out for help. The next morning at 7, I attended the twins' funeral at the temple. The manager had already arrived. During the chanting, the temple dog suddenly barked wildly as if possessed. We were startled, unaware of what was happening. Then a senior monk, Prakru, emerged, pressed his palms together in prayer, chanted briefly, and the dogs fell silent. But the strangeness continued. When they began chanting the Abhidhamma, Praprom, the younger twins' bier collapsed, the coffin falling to the floor, the lid coming open. The manager and the twins' family rushed to replace it. I helped. I saw that David's eyes were not fully closed, and his body appeared desiccated, the skin blackened, not a normal corpse. The senior monk examined him and said they had been harmed by a black something from Cambodia, Khmer. Leaving the temple, I saw a dark shadow sitting in a large tree, legs swinging. I forced myself to ignore it, turning up the music, singing loudly to calm my nerves. Approaching home, the music suddenly transformed into Khmer chanting, playing Swat Khmer. In the rear-view mirror, I saw a dark shadow pursuing my vehicle. I cared for nothing but reaching home. I threw open the car door and ran inside. My mother later said I behaved like a madwoman speaking incoherently. I remembered none of it. That period is blank in my memory. That night, I dreamed of grandmother again. She held me and kissed my forehead. Then nothing. When I woke, it was morning. I told my mother we must go to our hometown immediately to see the forest monk. I packed quickly and called the manager to join us. Around 2 in the afternoon, we stopped at a gas station for lunch. The manager then told me that while driving, he had felt something on the vehicle's roof. After eating, we discovered a large patch of black blood stains on the roof's rear. He cleaned it immediately. He was mostly silent during the drive, constantly checking the rearview mirror. When I asked what was wrong, he whispered, "Something has been following us." We decided to reach my mother's hometown as quickly as possible. Shortly after, the manager received a call from our boss. Michael had passed away. We were stunned into silence. After hanging up, the manager said, "There are only 2 of us left now. Take good care of yourself. We must hold on." We finally reached the temple near my mother's hometown. My aunt had arranged everything. An unfamiliar uncle waited for us, holding a small ritual knife with characters etched on the blade. He chanted sutras while drawing spells on the ground, then instructed us to walk quickly into the temple, thrusting the knife into the ground behind us. He demanded, "What exactly did you do to provoke it? It is not an ordinary spirit. It's deadly." We told him the entire story. He sent us to bathe, then to rest in the Buddha room. He warned that tonight it would certainly come, attempting to take us. If we survived until morning, he would take us to the forest monk. So this uncle was not the forest monk after all. The manager and I entered separate Buddha rooms. Before closing my door, the uncle instructed, no matter what sounds you hear, no matter what happens, you must not open the door. Do not step out. Stay here until dawn. Candlelight flickered in the Buddha room, filled with incense fragrance. I felt more grounded there. I sat before the Buddha image and meditated, struggling to calm myself. Then the candles extinguished. Knocking sounded at the door. The window opened by itself. I saw a dark shadow on the balcony, staring directly at me. I closed my eyes, recited Buddhist mantras, and continued until sleep took me. When I woke, it was dawn. Seeing sunlight, I opened the door and went downstairs. My mother and the uncle had prepared fresh flowers, incense, candles, white clothes, and white cloth. The manager appeared. After eating, we loaded various items into the car and set out for the forest monk. His temple lay far from town. When the forest monk saw us, he instructed us to change into the white clothes. If you don't get through tonight, he said, you might have to leave this world with your friends. I felt only mild fear. Perhaps I had become numbed. Several uncles brought 2 old coffins. The monk announced we would sleep in them tonight, undergoing a funeral. What kind of funeral, he did not explain, and we did not feel entitled to ask. Around 5 o'clock, the manager and I were each wrapped in printed cloth, pakama, holding fresh flowers, incense, and candles, pretending to be dead. At 6 in the evening, I lay inside one of the old coffins. Several uncles moved me to another location. The surroundings were utterly quiet. I assumed the manager was experiencing the same. Night fell. Dogs began howling to each other. Wind rose. I heard the forest monk chanting sutras in the distance. I knew it had come. Then I felt something approach the coffin, muttering in Khmer. I tried to remain calm, eyes closed, chanting sutras. The coffin began receiving blows again and again, growing louder. The knocking transformed into screaming. Time passed with excruciating slowness, but I continued chanting with closed eyes, waiting for dawn. That night was truly unbearable. The next morning, several uncles arrived. I immediately rose. The manager already stood beside them. Only then did I realize I had spent the night in that old coffin in a desolate cemetery among the graves. The uncles returned us to the temple. I took a holy bath, Opnam Mun, and finally felt cleansed, peaceful. The forest monk told us it would not bother us anymore. We could go home reassured. I understood then that last night's funeral had allowed us to fake our deaths, to deceive that entity. Before leaving, I asked about the male spirit that had followed me. The monk replied, "Last night, the moment you lay down in that coffin, that male spirit disappeared." "3 years have passed since that day. The manager and I have experienced no further supernatural events. Moreover, we married and now have a healthy, lovely baby. I am deeply, truly grateful to the forest monk and to everyone who helped us. Without their intervention, I would long since left this world and would never have had the chance to tell this strange story."